Nintendo has won the console war. You know, like I said back in 2014. Like, it's crazy seeing, like, the recent rash of YouTubers, like, saying the exact same thing that I was saying over a decade ago. It's like they all watch my old videos and they're just like, holy shit, Harman Smith, the successful author, the owner of HarmanSmithBooks.com. He was talking about this a decade ago. I better rip off his video and just make all the same points without really understanding like why this happened or how this played out. Because I think the mistake a lot of people are making is that they're trying to pretend this is like a real thing. A recent thing where they're trying to say that it's only because of like the PlayStation and Xbox price hikes. It's only because of like the declining third party quality. It's only because of like wokeism or like the declining culture in general, the economy. Like, they're not really talking about the real self-evident thing that Nintendo is just better than the competition. Because that's always been my argument, is that anybody who plays a lot of games will inevitably come to the realization that Nintendo is actually higher quality than all of the competition. Like, the issue isn't always has been that the vast majority of the audience will not engage with gaming past a surface level. So that has led to the illusion that the PlayStation 360 was way more popular and successful than the Wii, when in actuality, the Wii won that console generation. It had the most enduring legacy of that era and is still played today, while the Xbox 360 has been ring-ringed to death by like 2010, okay? It is crazy how many people swore to me that there was nothing to play on the Wii, that this thing had no legacy, that it wasn't relevant at all. And yet, like, I'm constantly telling people, you know, like, oh man, you gotta check out The Last Story. You gotta check out Pandora's Tower. You gotta check out, like, you know, Xenoblade Chronicles has blown up. Like, you know, these are not, like, major tentpole Wii titles that were popular at the time. They are niche, hardcore titles that have found success over years of this console being relevant and enjoyed by its player base, right? Like, this isn't like Nintendo has retained its relevancy over the decades in a way that PlayStation and Xbox just hasn't, okay? You still see kids playing Game Boy games today, okay? It still happens. You know, the DS is still relevant. The Wii is still relevant. The Wii U is still relevant. You know, I was just hanging out with someone today who was talking about how he was going to get one because, like, oh man, I love those games. That was my favorite era of gaming ever. You know, Wii U babies are a thing now. You know, we're seeing people, like, do this thing where, like, they're beginning to gradually realize, like, how good Nintendo actually is. And it's not just nostalgia, I think, is the big major takeaway from this. Because I think back in, like, the when it came to, like, the NES babies, there was this mindset that, like, oh yeah, Nintendo was on top of their game then, they were the best ever, and, like, there was this mindset that they fell off at some point and were replaced by, like, better companies. You know, like, Sega Genesis fans would say it was Sega, PlayStation fans said PlayStation. These days people would say PC. But, like, the simple fact of the matter is Nintendo was consistently, like, growing and expanding their brand while everyone else was just chasing trends, okay? Sonic is very much a product of the 90s, where he was, like, an edgy mascot character meant to appeal to kids who, like, thought Mario was lame, right? That's the Sonic fan base, you know? You look at, like, PlayStation and how they tried to, like, you know, make everything more cinematic and, like, have more cutscenes and have more mature stories. Like, that was the narrative then. That, like, oh yeah, we have more realistic games for adults. That was, like, the mindset. And then, of course, the Xbox 360 era came, and that was the period where, like, everybody was playing online and death matches, and they just weren't interested in doing anything else, right? All of these fads came and went, but Nintendo stayed. Why? Because they established high-quality titles that were not focused on capturing, following industry trends. They established their own niche that no other company can possibly encroach on, and as a result of that, they have become timeless and iconic. It is crazy to me that they were able to put out Star Fox, you know, a pretty much by the numbers remake of like the original game, and have it be a reasonably good reimagining of the original. Like it follows the same template. You know, I can nitpick some things. I do like the voice acting better. I do like the visuals better in the original. But like by and large, like the remake is like objectively good, right? I just didn't like it as much as I would have liked. But again, I'm so attached to the original. I'm not. I just don't think I was the target audience for this. Ocarina is going to be interesting seeing how that comes out, because the way things are looking to me is that it's looking very likely that we're going to be seeing Ocarina of Time and Grand Theft Auto 6 go head to head. And the naive answer that I think a lot of people is going to come to is that, like, well, of course Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to beat Ocarina. Like, it's a newer game. It's going to sell, like, a bazillion units. It's going to, like, you know, be a way more popular game. But, like, the reality of it is that Ocarina of Time is 30 years old. And is like this all-time classic, and it has endured, and in a lot of cases is the first video game a lot of people play. And I think that will remain true even 30 years from now, long after Grand Theft Auto 5 and 6 are forgotten. Like, Ocarina of Time is a true tentpole title for the medium. Like, the first really good 3D game in a lot of ways that innovated a lot of the concepts we use today, and is just kind of a benchmark of that genre. Like, and again, in a lot of ways it hasn't been topped. Like, I don't think it is going to be topped until like VR becomes viable, you know, which I'm sure is going to happen at some point. But even when that happens, Ocarina of Time is, like, in a lot of ways, like, a major pioneer in gaming, and will stay relevant the same way that, like, Star Wars has remained relevant, or that, like, Citizen Kane has remained relevant. Like, even if people don't, like, play them or know a lot about them, like, they're going to still have it's still going to have its place in history. And the brand is going to continue with modern entries that actually radically improve on the initial concept. So, what we're going to see is that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to come out. It is going to do well. People are going to, like, soy jack over it. Like, this is the greatest thing ever. Oh, I'm 5 and this is the best game I've played in my life. Like, you're going to see people do that. And then you're slowly going to see the slow realization that, like, this didn't kill Nintendo. That Nintendo still kept selling units. They still kept selling consoles. They kept selling other games, while Grand Theft Auto 6 just suddenly starts becoming old news and starts being forgotten about. And other games start getting played. And inevitably, because of the success of Nintendo hardware, it is 100% going to be Nintendo-branded stuff that is, like, topping the chart. And you can see that now. Like, Grand Theft Auto 6 may top the charts for this year. It may be the best-selling game of this year. But what's the rest of the top 10 going to look like, you know? It's entirely going to be Nintendo games. Like, and again, you're going to see Mario Kart World top the charts in 2025, 2026, and 2027. Okay? Like, it's going to be right up there with Grand Theft Auto 6 as an evergreen title. And we're still in that, like, phase where people don't really understand what that means. They don't understand that Mario Kart is actually bigger than Grand Theft Auto. But, like, the realization of that hasn't sunk in yet. Like, people don't realize that Nintendo has completely demolished all of these companies. And it's only a matter of time until Grand Theft Auto bends the knee and releases the game on Switch 2. It's only a matter of time. So, with all that being said, why exactly are YouTubers so surprised by this? Because last year, everyone was doing the Nintendine thing, where they were, like, soy jacking and saying that the Switch 2 would fail. Okay, they were like refusing to acknowledge that the Switch 2 won the console generation even at that point. I was talking about how Nintendo won, like, the console war 10 years ago. Again, I was so far beyond everyone else. I was, like, galaxy brain. I was, like, light years ahead of everyone else. I was just like, you know, I'm like, you know, landing on the moon while these guys are, like, inventing the wheel. Okay. And I do think that, like, this really needs to be talked about more, at just how so many of these analysts look at, like, short-term gains and falls without really looking at the bigger picture. Because we saw this happen with the Nintendo stock price, right? Where when the Switch 2 came out, it hits all-time highs with the stock price, and then it started dipping. And then people started saying that, like, whoa, no, they're failing, it's not going up, it's not stabilizing, it keeps dropping. Like, yeah, because it hit its all-time high. This is, like, normal. Like, and now that the stock price is going back up again, not even a full year, I think, after it hits all-time high, the same people are suddenly nowhere to be found. In fact, they're saying the exact opposite, that Nintendo is failing, that they're not succeeding, that they aren't successful. I'm sorry, they're saying that Nintendo won the console war, right? And like only a year later, and like that's not a long enough period of time to really get a sense of like how a company is doing. Like, the reality is, when you look at something like Disney, when you look at something like PlayStation, when you look at Pixar, when you look at all these brands, like, what you end up seeing is that inevitably Nintendo is doing well while everyone else is failing. And what you're seeing with this recent rash of, like, Nintendo has won the console war videos, you're just seeing people acknowledge that fact. Like, that's all they're doing is just acknowledging that Nintendo has won. Like, and they're not really giving you, like, the full picture, is that they've completely dominated this niche, that they are the video game company, and they will be for a very, very long time, if not, like, indefinitely. Right? It is going to take a lot to get Nintendo off of, like, where they're at now. And I just feel like people don't understand what that means. Like, you still see people who believe that Power World is going to be able to destroy Pokemon, and in reality, that just isn't going to happen. So, what we're seeing now is just a slow, gradual decline of the pre-established notions that people had going into this. Like, people have always treated Nintendo as if their position in the gaming industry is precarious, that PlayStation and Xbox were like the real kings of the gaming industry, and that the third parties were like the big boys, and that Nintendo was just like something for kids. And like, what we're seeing now is that people are slowly beginning to accept that that's not actually true. And what we're seeing is just a slow, gradual collapse of the narrative. And it's only a matter of time until it becomes much more acceptable to say that Nintendo is the biggest thing in the world of entertainment.